Dead Pair Podcast is brought to you by Kolar Arms, America's competition shotgun, and is fueled by Fiocchi.
Welcome to the Dead Pair Podcast, coming in hot with everything you want to hear about sporting clays. With your hosts, Jason Rambo.
This is what I have to work with, everyone.
And Sean Alley.
Like I said, I was just thirsty.
Often imitated, but never duplicated. It's the Dead Pair Podcast. It's showtime.
Welcome back, everyone. This is an oddball episode. I'm missing my large mammal friend. He's taking care of the wife. She just had a successful surgery, and she's on the mend. In the meantime, I am joined by Mr. Ben Husthwaite. What's up, Ben?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Good. We're down here at Quail Creek. You got here, today's Friday, you got here Tuesday?
Monday, I believe.
Monday? Okay, so you've been teaching all week long? And
Yeah, it's been a busy week, so.
Jam-packed.
Yeah, we started this morning at 6:30, I think. So
Wow, 6:30 in the morning. I didn't know you got out of bed that early, Ben.
I'm just going in it.
Well, this is part 3 of the Novice to Masters class. We did the foundation, and then we did the climb, and then this is the Pinnacle. You know, Ben, I was thinking about it, and Sean and I were talking about it, and it was like, you know, Ben's kind of the perfect guest. I mean, you travel all over the world coaching. I think you're probably home coaching 15% of the year. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think I could actually apply for tax exemption. I'm there that little. No, I'm serious. I'm this year's probably been the worst of all of them. I'm probably, for every 15 days, I'm probably home 5.
Wow. But I mean, my point is you're a world-renowned coach. And, you know, that was one of the things we wanted to get somebody that's been all over and seen a lot and done a lot. And, you know, obviously you're a good coach because you're in high demand. So I thought it was perfect for this. And Sean and I talked about it and he agreed. Like I said, unfortunately, he can't be here. So you're stuck with just me this whole episode.
It's nice to do one face-to-face.
Yes, finally.
First one.
Yeah. We've done, 3 or 4 now, and it's always been
Remote.
Yeah, crazy hours and a lot of other stuff. So, well, this Pinnacle series focuses on AA and Masterclass. And the first thing I want to start off with was training, because at this stage of the game, you're not really training for basic fundamentals. So if you have a student come to you, or even in one of your masterclass clinics that you do, and you're working with a more advanced shooter, you're not, at that point, if you've got to worry about hold points and, you know, standing correctly and all that, we got a bigger problem, right? So what do you focus on in a lesson with the upper echelon?
I think when you're teaching the lower classes, you're looking for big increases. You're looking for 8 to 10% increase on investment. So if somebody comes to me and they're shooting 50, they immediately need to be shooting 60.
Right.
That's their return on their investment. When you start to get up to the classes, you're looking for 2%, possibly 1%. You're going to look for something that's going to give them a target, maybe just the one. So we might be looking for something as simple as eye placement, reaction times from eye movement to hands following. It could be something simple as the swing through is varying by a limited amount. So they're coming from behind at 2 different distances. They would still classify. If I was teaching a C-class shooter and I could just get them to come from behind, we'd class that as a win. A AA class or a master, they got to come from behind from a certain amount.
Right.
So I wouldn't say we deviate from the fundamentals. We narrow down the variables of the fundamentals.
More of a fine tuning.
Correct.
Yeah. Is there anything else you do different in training other than what you just said for, you know, the top 2 classes in the game?
So again, the first conversation we're going to have is, what do you think your problems are?
Okay.
I've always said to everybody, your first lesson with me is your worst lesson with me.
Right.
Because we've got to figure it out. I don't know what I'm walking into. And let's be truthful. Sporting clay shooters do not let the truth get in the way of a good story, right?
That's very true.
You sit down with a client, you say, okay, tell me about yourself. You know, I'm a 90% shooter. And you go out there and they're a 75% shooter, but 90 sounds better.
Right.
So first off, you've got to check whether they're actually as good as what they say. And then I'm going to spend a limited amount of time watching, videoing, and I'm looking for consistent problems. It might be a fundamental. It might be something way outside the box. And then we are looking to break that down. Which one am I going to fix first? Okay.
Right.
You got 5 problems. Let's fix the big one and then start ticking off the small ones. And you might, by fixing a big one, you might fix 2 of the small ones. But we are looking at a very, very technical sport. Okay.
Right.
So first thing I'm going to ask anybody at the topic, do you have any injuries? Are you limited in movement? I'm going to ask you to turn your neck and you can't do that. Okay, let's fix that. So there's always going to be a tick chart that I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask you what you do for a living. I'm going to see if we can relate shooting to what you do on a daily basis.
Sure.
So it's a very, very bespoke, high-end lesson.
Right.
Is what we're going to try and deliver.
Okay. What about, and this is something that I'm starting to learn now that I've, been yo-yoing between AA and masterclass, is maintaining peak performance and knowing how to perform under pressure. The more, and you hear Anthony talk about a lot, the more tournaments you shoot, the easier it gets. I don't know why. If you look at all the tournaments I've shot in the last 6, 7, 8 years, some reason or another, my heart rate just spikes at the first station.
Okay, but when you're going out to practice or you're going to take a lesson, does your heart rate spike?
No.
Then it's not a lesson.
Oh. Okay. Do tell.
If I'm going to take you for a very relaxed lesson and we're going to just get on very well and you're nice and relaxed, that's not training for a competition. That's just shooting.
Right.
I need to up my volume. I can shout. I can put pressure on. I can make you intimidated. I'm not doing it because I want to. I'm trying to almost theatrically create an environment where you feel pressure.
Right.
If you're not, the only way you're going to train for pressure is to be under pressure.
Right.
So I need to create an environment. If I can teach you to shoot pull away in a completely relaxed environment, but you can't do it under pressure,
yeah,
that's not a lesson.
Right. I agree.
I'm just pressing buttons.
So for those of the people that are listening and they can't get to you for a lesson or whatever, so how do they create that in their own training? Do they take somebody out with them that's going to not necessarily yell at them, but put pressure on them?
You can create pressure in many ways.
Okay.
Many, many ways. I had a private lesson out here on Tuesday, and I took 2 guys out there, and I said, right, that's wonderful. You've shot great. 2 of my friends from Jamaica. And I said, right, will that form hold out under pressure? Okay. The worst pressure in the world is male pride.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Bring male pride into this, right?
Right.
These are 2 extremely well-to-do gentlemen. Losing $100 in a bet is not going to create any pressure because $100 don't matter.
Right, right.
But, so what I said to them was, right, we're going to play a Ben's version of skins. Okay? So we're going to shoot this station. When we walk up to a station, I'm going to give you a par for that station. So on this station here, you got to hit 7. The moment you miss more than 2, you're out. And the next guy gets to go. And the moment he drops below 7, he's out too, and we're going to go back in. Now, this is not money. You want to beat him and he wants to beat you. Male pride hurts, right?
Okay.
We stood on the first station for nearly 30 minutes.
Really?
Because they didn't even care about killing. They cared about winning.
Right.
And I can show you my phone when we finish this. Both of them messaged me and said, that's the best lesson I've ever had.
Wow.
Because they just couldn't get past station 1. And it was just that little batu and a rabbit. But they weren't thinking about killing the targets. They were thinking about not losing to him.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say that because I could care sometimes. And Sean, I wish Sean was here for this. Sean and I, we would have this conversation at a tournament. It's like, I don't care if I win, lose, or draw. I'm beating you today.
That's it.
And he's like, oh yeah, you think so? And it's like loser buys dinner,
but the dinner don't matter.
No, it was $30
dinner don't matter.
Right. It was the pride.
It's the pride. Yeah. Pride hurts. So I put them in a situation and they were like, oh, but then one guy goes in and he runs it. Finally, he shot 8.
Mm-hmm.
The next guy walks in and gets 7. That's a tie because 7 was the goal.
Okay.
He shot 8. That was one more than he needed to.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
So now nobody wins and that pride rolls.
Yeah.
Now we're on station 2.
I see where you're going with this.
Station
this
2 was slightly harder. So I gave them a par of 6. You're now allowed to miss 2 zeros. First guy dutches the first pair. Fills in the next 3 pairs. He's on 6. He's through. Now there's ultimate pressure on the second guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So he goes in, he shot 6, they tie. Now we're 2 pegs tied and we go to the third peg. So I gave him another par of 6. Jeffrey goes in first and he shoots 8. And I saw Dale walk in and I said to him, "You've already lost." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because I gave you a par of 6. You've gone past 6 now. You think you need 8. Because he shot 8. You've just moved the goalpost.
Right.
You've only got to hit 6. You've not got to hit 8. And he was like, "Oh, yeah." And you could see the pressure went from here, and he went in, he killed 7, tied.
Right.
That's how I would train. I would find somebody's button and press it.
Okay. All right. So this is how people can try to add that tournament pressure in their training when they're at home. Okay.
Otherwise,
Excellent.
You're not training, you're shooting.
Right. Well, another the 2 hot topics always with anybody is
Ben and Brandon.
no.
They're the 2 hot topics right now.
Okay. Other than individuals.
Jason's just rubbing his head, by the way.
Oh man. Yeah. It show kind of went a direction I wasn't anticipating, but but no, the 2 hot topics as far as shooting is concerned is, other than individuals, is training and then of course the mental game. Right.
Okay, but let's bypass that.
Okay.
Let's go to training and practice.
Okay. Go
Because
ahead.
they're not the same.
Right. I completely agree with that. So I have my definition, but let everybody know what Ben's definition of practice and training is.
Okay, so if I'm going to go and practice, I'm going out there with a specific goal to make what I already do better.
Okay.
Okay, so if I always shoot that target swing through, I'm going to continue to shoot it swing through. I'm just going to dial in the details. So I'm going to come from 9 inches behind. Then I'm going to try and come from 21 inches behind. I'm looking for detail. So I already do it. I'm just going to do it better.
Okay.
Training is, we're going to do today things we don't do. We're going to look for something. We're going to try and find something. I might move the kill point getting ready for sim pairs. If I'm practicing, I want very few zeros. If I'm training, there's going to be a lot of zeros.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Okay. All right. Makes perfect sense to me. So you want to skip the mental side. We'll come back.
No. I'm just saying, people misinterpret.
Yeah.
I'm going to go training. What are you? Because I just watched you shoot. You shot 4 pairs in the same place every time. That's practice. You got to know what you're doing today. It's either practice or it's training. They are polar opposites.
Right. No, I agree. 100%.
But what happens? 2 guys go shooting. Husband and wife go shooting. They don't want to miss because they don't want their friend to win. So what do?
Practice.
They practice their strengths.
Right.
And if they know on station 2, they were here last Tuesday and they couldn't hit that batu, guess what they do at station 2? Drive past. Because they don't want to miss.
Right.
That's practice.
Yeah. Practice is improving your strengths and training is working on your weaknesses.
That's the difference.
So,
make sure you know what you're doing.
But so moving on, I do want to skip the mental thing. We'll come back to that. Coaching, and this is a big one for the people at the top of the game. If you're beating your coach,
Wrong coach.
and I've seen, well, no, hold on. Is it? Because my question was, if you're beating your coach, can they still help you? Can
mentally.
you still learn from them?
Maybe mentally.
Okay. That's
Maybe
where I was
mentally.
going.
So I don't think there's any greater honor in sport than your student beating you. Pass the baton is the greatest honor.
Right.
But if he's consistently beating me, I'm going to take a lesson from him because he knows something I don't.
Right.
So I've got lots of students that have already been world champion in categories, and I probably work with them less technically, more mentally.
Okay.
But if I'm a master, I am not taking a lesson from an A-class coach.
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously. Yeah.
I have never took a driving lesson from somebody that can't drive.
Yeah, and understand what I was getting at. I'm not saying because you beat your coach one time, you need to fire him.
No, correct.
But if you're beating him consistently,
He's your coach.
yeah, you're his coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I was going with that. And the other thing, too,
And I think on that point, you got to get value for money. If you think he can help you with a 1%, that's good. But for me, there's so much coaching out there that isn't value for money, right? If you're going to take me out of the course for 90 minutes and you're going to talk about posture for 90 minutes, That's irrelevant for me.
Right.
You need to give me details, right? If I want to, in a 90-minute session, I want to take two things. If I'm having a golf lesson, I want to take two things away from a 90-minute session. We don't need to work one thing for 2 hours, right? Because you are not going, at the level we're talking about, the upper echelons of the shooting world, whatever I teach you today, you're not going to master it today.
Yeah, you're going to learn how to work on it.
Correct. So we don't need to do this for 2 hours, right?
Right.
Because I'm not going to learn it, whether we do it for 90 minutes or 3 hours, I'm not mastering it. Teach me till I understand it. Teach me something new.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And what I was getting ready to say is I'm starting to realize is if a person at the top of the, not at the top of the game, but the top two classes of the game, there's a big difference in the top of the game and being in the top class. Trust me, I'm one of those idiots, right? You know, just because I'm in the same class as Brandon doesn't mean I can shoot the same score as he can. In fact, I can't even come with this zip code of his score. Anyway, but what I'm starting to notice is, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you can take a long, hard look in the mirror and look at what and realize what you're doing, if you can be self-aware enough, you can almost start to self-coach. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. You got to be your self-critique, right? Because a coach is not a crutch. He's not going to be there. She's not going to be there all the time. Now, I want to hear your voice in my head, but when I walk into that last station to win my class, to win the world championship, to win the nationals, that's a lonely place, right?
Yeah, because there's nobody going to stand over your shoulder.
If you go, I don't know the answer to the questions. Have you been coached or have you been walked? Right?
Right.
As a coach at the top level, the questions are more important than the answers. You got to know what questions to ask yourself to find the answer. You can't be taught the answer all the time. When I walk into that last box and I go, right, I've got to hit that Batu, and I do my calculations, I do my pre-shot routine, and I miss, I've got to readdress the questions.
Yeah.
The coach needs to guide you through the questions you can ask. Right, how far is it? How fast is it? What's the angle? Right-hand machine, left-hand machine. That's where the next kill's coming from. We don't just cross our fingers and go,
yeah,
hope the next one works.
Yeah.
The questions are as important as the answers.
Okay. So yeah, that was my point on the whole self-coaching thing.
You got it.
You got to be, but I think a lot of people, this is just my personal opinion.
Do you become a better driver having lessons or driving on your own for 2 years?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Driving on your own for 2 years. But what I was getting ready to say is I think a lot of people are not being self-aware enough. They're looking for someone else to give them the answer.
The crutch. That's what I said. Right. You can't have a crutch.
And so that's what I've started to notice for myself. Like I went to the US Open here recently and shot terribly, but I wasn't, this is a very dumb thing to say, but I really wasn't there to compete. I had too much else going on. I just wanted to go and experience it. And I'm glad I did. But I learned a lot of things about my shooting while I was there. You know, Jamie set the feet test, wonderful targets.
Jamie said all of it, I think.
I know he set feet test.
I think he said all of it. He was there for 3 weeks.
I think Eric Dorsey set some stuff.
I spoke to Jamie quite a lot while he was there.
Yeah. Okay. Targets were wonderful, regardless of who set them.
Yeah.
Okay. But I noticed some things about myself that I hadn't before. And I think that goes back to that long, hard look in the mirror sometimes. You know, instead of just paying someone to give you the answer, why don't, like you said, you got to be asking the right questions, and then you can probably answer it yourself if you do.
Well, if you watch tennis, right? Tennis is a very technical sport, and it's man on man or woman on woman. They are not allowed to be coached in the arena now. They've brought that rule in. There is no communication between athlete and coach. So they've got to self-critique.
Right.
You know, I'm sure there are secret signals, coughs and sneezes, which means do something. But you're alone, and that's what we are. We're in the box, and we're alone.
Yeah, you're on an island on the box.
And it's the loneliest place in the world when they're not breaking.
Oh, yeah.
When they're breaking, you feel like everyone's in there with you.
Yeah.
And you look at people's facial expressions, and you can see whether they're enjoying that station or they're not, right?
Yeah.
And if they're not enjoying it, instead of self-critiquing, what do? They want out of there. Pull, bang, bang, pull, bang, bang, pull, bang, bang. Out.
Yeah.
If they're shooting well, pull, bang, bang. and they almost look for praise.
Yeah.
They look for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've always said the winner of the competition is not the guy that makes the best shots, is the guy that fixes the bad shots quickest.
Makes sense.
Because we all miss. Very seldom is it 1 on 100.
Right.
So the guy missed. The guy that won it fixed it faster than the guy that didn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely it does.
It's not about hitting them. It's about fixing the ones that you didn't and fixing them faster than the other guy, girl.
The next thing I have on my talking point here is attending large shoots. You know, here in the United States, for us, it's, you know, regionals, U.S. Opens, nationals, state shoots, that kind of thing. Big money blasts. We do a lot of shooting over here, more than what y'all do. But you've warned me about this in the past, is shooting yourself out. And if you're going to go to a competition, maybe limit the amount of shooting you do. You know, when you look down our registration, sometimes there's 15 to 20 different events you can shoot. You know, and I should have started with this. We're here at Quail Creek, where the Jack Links Cup is. I mean, they have prelims that start as early as Wednesday.
Yeah.
You know, 3-4 different prelims and all the sub gauges and all the different events, and you can really shoot yourself out. So what is your advice to somebody at the upper level?
I don't think there's a right or wrong. You got to know your personal level of what you react best to. You know, I listened to the podcast with yourselves and Brandon. You could hear Brandon saying, I shoot the events, but I don't try the events. I don't switch on till the main event. Now, he's found out what works for him. Now, you don't run a racehorse every week.
Right.
They pick what they want to win and they run him. Now, you're only going to find that by making mistakes. Mm-hmm. So we've just had our first World Cup event in in Europe. We had the World Cup event in Hungary. That was on the 17th of April, I believe. Now, I went there and I haven't shot a registered competition target since September.
Really?
0.
Wow.
I fired 200 cartridges at home trying a new stock, and I drove. And in my mind, I had one goal. Do not embarrass yourself, right? You got to be relevant. Limit how many you lose by. That was my true goal.
Okay.
There was George Digweed there, Tamas Jerry, Andras Shazday, Andras Varga, Richard Folds. It was an event.
Yeah, yeah.
And these guys are shooting every week. And I haven't shot a competition target. And I walked onto station 1 and I'm like, I've missed this. I was nervous.
Really?
Because I'm not battle hardened. I know how to break the targets, but I'm not battle hardened. I hadn't put any pressure in my training because I hadn't done any training. And I was like, okay, this is going to be very different here. Nothing is going to happen. I'm going to have to mechanically deliver the shot. I'm not just going to be able to let this go.
Right.
And I worked probably harder than I've ever done. And I got back to the clubhouse on day 1. I was like, I can't be far away. And I got to school and I was leading by 3.
Really?
And that really, you just said, that was like how I felt. I was like, God. And I got to the hotel room that night and I was like, I forgot how to deal with this. Can't sleep. Checking the watch. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Right, let's go back to sleep. Right, that was a great sleep. Look at the clock. It's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, no.
Because I forgot how to deal with it.
Right.
So the shoot takes place the next day. I walk my way through the 3 layouts and the scoreboard comes up. And I go to the last layout and I know 19 wins me the event. I'm the last person out. Not emotional, but I could feel I could cry.
Yeah.
And I have missed this. And I said to my friend Attila, I said, like, this is exciting, right? I'm counting zeros. I can miss that and win. And I got to the next panel, I'm like, what on earth do you mean? Let's just go for it. We're defending right now. Mm-hmm. We don't defend, we attack, right? And for me, it was just the ultimate learning curve of you'd forgot how to react under pressure.
Yeah.
And it significantly helped me as a coach to deliver that to somebody else. Because I was in the cauldron, not doing it very well. But I was good enough to make bad shots good. And I got to the last station, I was like, no, we're going for it, right? And I learned so much about me from what you said, self-critiquing throughout the event. Now, the European Championships is next week, and I've not shot since that event. So I didn't learn very much because I'm still an idiot. But we're going to go home this weekend, and the gun's coming out, and I'm going to train.
Okay.
So I'm going to look at it from both sides. But if you're going to be an upper class coach, you got to be an upper class shot. Because when you come to me on how you're going to deal with that pressure, I need to have succeeded and failed. Or what am I telling you?
Yeah.
What am I giving you experience from? If you've not lost a world title and won a world title under pressure, what can I teach you about doing it?
Right. Yeah, that's well said.
I'm not going to pick on names. I've changed a little bit. I'm a little bit nicer than I used to be. So we're not going to pick on people. But if you've lost 5 world championships leading going into the super final, you're not the person I'm going to come to for the mental game.
Okay.
Because if your mental game was good,
you wouldn't have lost 5 of them.
Correct.
You might have lost 2. And
you're going to lose some.
Yeah,
we're allowed to lose.
Right.
But if you're a loser, I'm not coming for you to learn how to be a winner.
Yeah.
Them two things don't go hand in hand.
No, it makes perfect sense. Before we dive into the mental thing, one more thing. I've got down here equipment. Now, by this stage of shooting, if you're in AA or Master, you've pretty much got your equipment figured out. But I put this on here, and I'm glad you brought it up. You said you got a new stock, or you made a change to your stock, and you went home and shot 200-300 rounds. It's funny because as when you're in the lower level and somebody fits your gun, wow, this is awesome, and your scores just jump. But when you're already shooting in the let's just take a shooter, let's say shooting in the low 90s, you're not going to see that 10 target swing that you saw when you were down in C class and had new fitting. But the small, minute adjustments, for some reason or another, take forever to get used to. And it's almost like you have to go back, practice to get used to that change.
That's, for me, becomes part of the mental game at the top. Okay, my goal is to be better. I may have to get worse first. And that takes a special kind of winner. If you think every change we're going to make is going to result in a positive immediately, you are very much mistaken.
Yeah.
So I've got windows of change, right? I'm going to change stock. It's going to take me to here, but I'm prepared to go to here. Any lower than here, and the stock's gone.
Right.
So I've set my stop loss. But you can't just think every change is going to...
Yeah, but I guess what I was getting at is, sometimes it's required to make a change. You go up or down in weight, or maybe you get a new gun, and you got to make that tweak. That's what I was getting at, is the amount of not training, but you need to go back to practice.
And you've got to get worse.
And you got to get worse before you can get better.
Got to.
Yeah.
Got to.
I guess that's what I was getting at, is as far as equipment's concerned, it's the little minute changes like that take a lot to...
And mentally, if you're not prepared to make a change and get worse, don't make the change.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because you're going to be disappointed.
Right.
And people say, God, that stock didn't suit me. How long did you shoot your old stock for? 7 years. How long did you shoot that one for? Well, I put a flat through it. Oh. Well done.
You didn't give it a fair shot, did you?
Yeah, but I was missing. You make any changes? Yeah. Oh. Apply logic.
Right. Well, let's dive into this. Let's start with mental fortitude. This is, man, Ben, and again, we're definitely not going to mention names, but as an observer, I've watched a lot of really great shots throw away some big tournaments.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, when I say great shots, they obviously have the skill set to do it. It's all between the ears at this point. So talk about the mental fortitude and what it takes. I know this may be you might wrap up a whole entire episode on this one.
But you'll talk about this for hours.
Yes, but I'm trying to give people, this 3-part series is designed to help the person go from novice to masters. Now, obviously, they're not going to do it in 3 podcasts, just listening to 3 podcasts, but at least we're trying to give them the information, do their own research, do their own homework, and make it there. So, mental fortitude, give me a 300-foot view from above to compete at the top of the game. Give me a couple of different things that they have to have together between the ears to make happen.
The biggest thing is suppress your own fears. That's number one.
Right.
Because anybody that tells you they walk into a super final, they're not scared, is lying. It's the guy that's going to control that fear. Okay. You get shooters that shoot at 100 miles an hour. Pull, bang, bang, pull, bang, bang, pull, bang, bang. And they go into super final. They don't. Because the situations just beat them. We have a great saying in rugby, play the occasion, not the game, right? Okay. That's when you're going to fail. As a coach, you tell them, play the game today, not the occasion. It's a game of rugby. Doesn't matter what's on the line. Don't play any different than you would normally play.
Right.
And that's exactly what happens in shooting. We see these pre-shot routines and we see them change because the situation. So they go on station 1, Thursday morning, nothing's happened yet. We can't win or lose. Pull, pull, bang, bang. Now Friday comes. They're winning. Now the 7-shot pre-shot routine takes 11 shots. And they fall back because they changed the mental game.
Right.
And they realize now they're in 12th place. They feel like they're out of it. So they go back to day 1's pre-shot routine. And they come back. Now they're in 3rd place. And now they go back to... And they just seesaw because they can't control what they do. The occasion gets on top of them. Now, that's fear, right? Fear of winning or fear of losing. Fear of hitting or fear of missing. As a high-class athlete, that's your first thing you got to get hold of. And I've always said it, and people will hate me for it, will get comments for it. It's not arrogance. I've won my title because I don't care.
That's probably the most dangerous competitor is the one that doesn't care.
What do I care about?
No.
Every event I go to, I lose money. Right?
Right.
So what am I afraid of, right? And I've said it to you before. I said it on a podcast. Monday. If what happens in that Super 6 final, shoot off, last rotation, does not change my Monday, it has no bearing on me whatsoever. That's what I lost in Hungary. It started to have a bearing on me because I had forgot. Right? If I win the World FITAS on Sunday, do you know where I'm going Monday? Work.
Right.
Nothing's changed.
Right.
And by Tuesday, no one cares. I've had my Facebook post. I've counted the likes. I've read the comments. And now we're talking about who's going to win the next shoot. You're a Facebook champion. That's it.
Right. Right.
Why do we take pictures of the shoot-off? For social media. We want acclaim. We want people to worship us. We want people to say, well shot. And then it's forgotten. And when I realized that, that was when I became a more dangerous athlete. And my mental game, I wouldn't say got stronger. I just stopped worrying. And I think you look at, George changed the game for people. He raised the bar, We had to get better because he was out in front. And Brandon's doing that over here. He's going to make you all better because you got to catch him. So you can't catch him technically because you're as good as him. But at the minute, his mental game is better.
Yeah.
He shoots with freedom.
Oh, yeah.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
When he's willing to go for it and you're defending like I did,
right?
There's only one winner there. So
it's almost what I call shooting safety or trying not to miss.
Correct.
Instead of trying to hit the damn thing.
No, I think it's the opposite. Not quite. I think you're halfway there. I think it's the readiness to make a good shot.
Okay.
I'm not worried about killing it. When I'm at my best, I'm not worried about killing. I'm not worried about missing. I want to make a great move. The move will kill it. If I try and kill it and forget the move, now I'm in no man's land.
Okay.
So for me, it's not about trying to hit it or trying to miss it. It's about trying to make a good shot. And that is the mental game.
So let's just say millennials see the mental coaches or therapy as crutches. How do you get over that stigma?
As in?
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking for a mental coach to help them. Everybody's looking for, some kind of voodoo, I guess you could say. How do you get over that? How do you move on from that? And
Well, when I was with British shooting, when I was shooting a little bit of the Olympic disciplines, they sent me to a mental coach, right? And I really didn't want to go.
Okay.
And I walked into the room, and I'll never forget it. And it was a gentleman, and he said, "Ben, take a seat." I said, "Not yet." I said, "Don't think I'm going to be here that long, right?" Truthful. This is not arrogance. This is the truth.
Yeah.
This is exactly as it went down. I said, "I'm going to ask you one question, and how you answer the question is going to depend on whether this continues." I said, "When you had to hit the last bird to win the world championship, how did you feel?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "The scoreboard's in front of you. You've got a target to shoot, a clay pigeon. You've got to hit it to win the world championship. How did you feel?" He said, "Well, I don't shoot." I said, "You can't help me then. Because you're going to teach me what somebody taught you in a classroom from a laptop. I've missed that target to win the world championship, and I've hit it. I've actually got more qualifications than you. I can tell you how you're going to feel. I can tell you where your sweat's going to come from. I can tell you mistakes you're going to make. You're going to tell me what somebody got paid to teach you in a classroom of 40 people. There's 39 more of you out there. What are you going to teach me?"
Right. I understand what you're saying now. Yeah.
Now, if you can show me a qualified mental coach, that's a great shot. That might be somebody I might.
Yeah.
But when you tell me, "Right, today, Ben, in this mental training, we're going to work on your breathing." Done that all by myself for 47 years. Right?
Right.
Which part of that do I need to work on? I can do it in my nose, out my mouth, in my mouth, out my nose. I'm fully qualified. What are you going to teach me?
Yeah.
When they say, "I've got to hit the last pair to win the world championship." Right, we're going to ignore that. Pardon? You're going to ask me to unknow what I already know. I'll pretend it's not true. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. I don't know, and I might be wrong. I don't know, and I know every top shooter in the world. I don't know one of them in sporting that's had a mental coach.
Really? I did not know that.
Well, I might be wrong, but they've certainly never told me, and I've spoke to all of them. Now, Olympic trap shooters have had them because I think that's a little bit different because there's so much downtime. You might get 1 or 2 minutes between one shot. They might be able to help you with staying in the present, but sporting and FITAS is done. I think they're very, very different. Now, in my younger days, I shot a lot with George, and I learned a lot from George. You know, my relationship with George now is not what it was, but that doesn't mean I won't put accolade where it is deserved.
Right.
The guy's won more world titles than anybody, so you think I can't learn something from that person? That would make me the idiot. So I believe if you want to learn the mental game of sporting clay shooting, learn it from somebody that's succeeded in the cauldron and failed in the cauldron, because that's the guy that's going to be able to talk you through which door to open and which door to close.
Well said.
And I've just put every mental coach out of business, and I apologize for that.
Well, you know, and it's funny too, because there's mental coaches, there's sports psychology, there's all this information out there, and it's like, how do you weed through it? I guess what I was looking for, again, we're trying to help people at home.
Yeah.
What I was looking for you, if somebody struggles, it's like, man, I'm doing good, the pressure gets on, and I fail epically every time. And I understand you learn by experience, but I'm not getting over this hump.
Write down your 5 fears, right? Why are you scared of missing? So I had one of my students from Kuwait. Okay, he's an Olympic skeet shooter. When I met him, he wasn't in the Kuwait national team.
Okay.
I was not employed to coach him in Olympic skeet in any way. He chose me to help him with his mental game. Okay. So I spoke to him in detail. We worked together once a month for an hour. He made it to Paris Olympics. Okay. I said to him, "Mohammed, what are your fears?" And I said, "Who are you scared of letting down?" That's the first one. Who are you scared of letting down? And he said, "My grandfather and my father." Okay. His grandfather was also an Olympian. So did his father. Different sports, nothing to do with shooting. So I said to him, right, the first thing we've got to do is neutralize that fear. I've never been trained. I've got no sports psychology training. I just know how I would deal with the situation. That's all I can advise you on. This is not scientific. This is not qualifications. This is my experience. So I said to him, the next tournament, he was averaging around 117, 113, 114, 117. I said to him, I want you tonight to print off a photograph of your father and your grandfather. He said, okay. And I want you to laminate them. And I want you to take them with you to the World Cup event. He was going to Morocco in 2 days' time. I said, before you shoot every single round, you're going to take those 2 photographs out of your bag. You're going to look them in the eye in the photograph, and you're going to tell them both you love them, but this is not for you today. I'm shooting for me. And you're going to take those photographs, you're going to put them in the glove box of the car and lock it. And we're leaving father and grandfather there. Right? I didn't know if it was going to work or not. I made it up on the spot. Right? I was just thinking how to deal with it.
Right.
He shot a 1-2-3 and won a quota place. He explained what he did to a sports psychologist in Morocco. And the guy said to him, oh my God, who trained this guy? I was like, dude, I made this up on the spot. And I think you got to find your fears and learn to isolate them in a way that suits you. Now, I could deal with that situation because, as we spoke about before, my biggest fear was my father. So I knew how to deal with that situation because I dealt with it.
Right.
So write down your first 5 fears. Don't want to let my father down. Don't want to let the wife down. Feel guilty for spending money that could go toward the kids' college fund. These are all fears that are going to make you break. And next to it, write down a very simplistic solution. And if that solution doesn't work, write down another one. Until you start to realize, okay, Jesus Christ, I only struggled on one of these this weekend. And then you're starting to do what you said of self-critiquing.
Yeah.
And working to neutralize threats. Because the best form of defense, attack.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because oh man, I don't know if I should say this on air or not, but I was trying to throw a tournament earlier this year, and you know me, and I was afraid of punching up. I was trying to miss and hitting the targets. I was just letting it go. And I was like, the people I was shooting with was like, I can't believe you broke that there. I'm like, let's see if I can get closer to the trap.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the kind of goofy stuff I'm doing in a tournament. And I ended up shooting better than when I actually cared. But that goes back to what you said is you can't care. You
There's
can't.
a fine line. I think there's a fine line.
I mean, well, okay. You're right. You're absolutely right, and I agree with you. But I guess let me rephrase that. Caring too much will get you in trouble.
100%. Of all the world championships I've won, 60% of them were won with a hangover. True story.
Why does that not surprise me?
I couldn't do it now. Jesus Christ, I can't even get out of bed.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't teach that, but all that did was neutralize. I was more worried about not vomiting than breaking the bird that the bird broke.
Wow.
So that's not the right way to do it. I'm not advocating that.
You're not advocating pour
I'm
it on the
saying
night
that
before.
that was an eye-opener for me.
Right.
And that's when I say to all my students, control the move, make a good move, and if you miss good, right? For me, the mental game comes down to when you miss, the only issue was a lead-based problem, right? I only want to miss on a part of the shot that takes talent. Okay? How do you judge your whole point? Where do you start the gun?
As a base, it's always 50%.
50%.
Back.
Good. Does that take talent?
No, not at all.
0. I could take somebody off the street and tell them, I'm going to kill it there. I see it first there. Where's 50%? A non-talented shotgun shooter would get that part right.
Yeah.
If I ask them how much lead it wants, 0 clue. So if I get the whole point wrong and miss, I just lost that tournament on an aspect that takes no talent. That's unforgivable. If I miss 12, all because I didn't know the lead, I lost that tournament because I wasn't good enough. And I can live with that.
Interesting.
Be the best at the parts that take no talent.
I take it you probably saw I repeated that line.
No.
Yeah, when we did the coverage at Nationals with David, I was on the Champions Network, and I brought that up. I stole that from you.
My phone probably died when David was talking.
But no, I credit you for that. I've heard you before say to be the absolute best you could be at everything that takes no talent.
Correct.
Standing correctly takes no talent.
Zero.
Holding the gun correctly takes no talent. And it's those kind of things that.
See, but I would
When
put
I'm
that
shooting-
under the mental game. That's
Really?
who wins the super squad at the Nationals, right? I love watching that. Brandon's not better than Anthony. Anthony's not better than Zach. Zach's not better than Corey. That's a mental game. We are now going to see 12 stations of the mental game.
Yeah.
Because they've perfected the technical. They don't miss through stupidity. They miss because something beat them that day. And for me, everything comes under the mental game. The mental game umbrella is huge. You can put your pre-shot routine under the mental game. I would put the whole point under the mental game too, because I didn't have to start in the wrong place. Mentally, I started in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So for me, you've got 2 clock faces on the wall, right? 12 o'clock. I start at 12:01. When I get back to 12, I'm technically perfect. I have mastered the art of clay pigeon shooting. And I would say there's 50 people in the world that are technically masters. Then we move across to mastering the art of winning. That drops down to 10.
Okay. Yeah.
How
guess
many
I
world
never looked at
champions
it.
has there been over the last 50 years?
Oh, wow.
10?
Yeah. Well, no, there's been a few more.
Who?
Oh, man, I'm trying to. Anthony, Zach.
Well, there's me, George, Richard,
Yes, and then you got Anthony,
Zach.
Zach, Corey,
Derek,
Derek,
Christophe Ovray,
Brandon.
Brandon. Not so fast to speak now.
You said Richard, right?
Yep, we're at 9.
You put me on a spot here, man.
There isn't that many.
No, okay, I get your point. Obviously, yes. But yeah,
Now-
it's very few.
Who are top shooters in the world? We'll talk for the next hour on this. But we still only find 10 winners. Now, there's more. There is more. There's Richard Bunnings won one from the UK. Alessandro Gaetano won one from Italy.
Oh, you missed David, too.
Yep, David. But you can see, we could speak about 100 great shooters,
Oh, yeah.
but they don't win the world championship. That's not because they're not good enough. It means they were beat that day. So the mental game of talented winners of the mental game is much smaller than the pool of technically talented shooters.
Never look at it like that. Yeah. Well, you leave me speechless sometimes, Dan.
Data doesn't lie, does it?
No, it doesn't.
When they say to me, that guy's such a great shot, I was like, oh, cool. How many world championships he got? We've never won one. Let's not put him in the great shot just yet then, eh? That's earned.
But there are literally thousands of great shooters.
100%.
Good shooters.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, there's people that I've seen shoot. It's like, man, this guy could go somewhere if he could just get it together between the ears.
And there's hundreds of them from 35 countries. But there can be only one world champion, right? That doesn't mean other people don't deserve it, but you got to earn one.
Yeah.
And for me, the mental game is the ever evolving. Look, there's a clay pigeon, right? You can start behind it, on it, or in front of it. We're not going to reinvent another method.
Right.
No one's going to start above it or under it. Then that just don't make any sense. So I can teach you 3 things. We're going to learn how to start behind it, how to start on it, and how to start in front of it. That's it. So now we're technically good, right?
So now we move on to mental.
Now I've got to learn to start behind it when everything inside of me is screaming start in front of it.
Yeah.
That's the mental game. One of the biggest phrases I say in all of my lessons at the top end of the sport. You don't have to like it. That's the biggest thing you got to learn.
Stepping outside of that comfort zone.
When you favor maintain lead, I hate maintain lead, right? Doesn't mean I don't do it. But let's say I'm a maintain lead shooter and I feel that I get my best results with maintain lead. I come to the last station of the World Championship. I got to run the station. The best way to shoot both targets is swing through. I know it's swing through, but I feel better about my maintained. You won't win.
Unless you swing through it.
And your brain, your heart says you are a better maintained lead shooter than you are swing through. You might not do it all of them, but you've only got to do it one of them.
One of them, yeah.
And that's what I said. You don't have to like it. I'm shooting swing through on this station, not because I like it, because in my practice and in my training and in my pressure tests, it held up the most. That's why I'm using it.
Makes perfect sense. One last question about this. For the people that have made it to this, upper two classes of the game, what are some common mistakes that you see people making? If somebody's listening to this and they're on the threshold of going to AA, or maybe they've got just enough punches, or about to go to Masters, what are some of the common mistakes you see people make that you could lend some advice to them, maybe help them from making that?
Well, I think one of the biggest problems you're going to find is habitual habits. If you do something wrong long enough,
Mm-hmm.
you might get some success out of it. And it might get you to AA. But at some point, we're going to have to unpick that.
Right.
Just because you've got here with X doesn't mean X is going to carry you. So for me, it's the worst thing I deal with daily is habits.
Trying to break the bad habits.
I said we've just done a 2-day masterclass, okay, here at Quail Creek. And I designed them in 2 ways. For day 1, breaking day. Day 2, making day. I'm going to break you on day 1. We're going to take your habits. I'm going to find every problem you have. I'm going to stick 2 crowbars in there, and I'm going to widen that gap. And you're going to realize that doesn't work. Then tomorrow, we're going to put a Band-Aid on it in the morning. We're going to walk you through new habits until we can permanently fix that crack, which is exactly what we said. So, whole point, kill point, method. If they're not correct, the rest of it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't
matter.
It doesn't matter.
So, the best way to finish on the line of a bird, right, is to start on it. Most common mistakes are missing line, or probably at the top of the tree is gun speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we train under nice circumstances, we might be 20% faster than the bird. When the pressure comes on and the adrenaline rush kicks in, 20 becomes 30, 30 is a 0. So for me, the 2 things is consistency on the whole point and consistency on your gun speed. Some people move fast, some people move slow. I'm not saying that's wrong. It's being able to do that speed all the way through.
Is there anything else, any other common mistakes that you see?
The other one, which is going to go, we could talk, is visual.
Mm-hmm. Controlling the eyes, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's not looking at the target. Don't ever put me under that. Don't ever put me under that banner.
But
I'm not talking about how you see the bird. I'm talking about where you see it.
Right.
Wanting to see it and can see it are not the same thing.
Yeah.
I want to see it earlier. Paul didn't see it. Guess what they do next time? Look in the same place.
Yeah.
Because they want to see it. And for me, that's a big thing. Wanting and can. I'm older now. I can't see them where I used to. That doesn't mean I can't hit them like I used to. It just means I've got to look in a different place. So if you said your whole point is generally a 50%. If I look further out, I just hold further out. My 50% has just moved. It's
Shifted.
still 50, yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, for somebody like me, like my eyes are terrible. I have corrective contacts, or sometimes I wear corrective lenses or whatever. But everybody says, look for a detail on the target.
Good luck with that.
I can't. I mean, if I'm holding the target in my hand, I might be able to. But past 10 yards. So, but what I'm getting at is, you talk about controlling the eyes, right? For me, no matter where my hold point is, I'm looking as close to the trap as I can to try and start tracking with my eyes.
But trying. That's the worst word you could say. If you look in a place where you can't see it, try all you want.
Well, I'm talking about coming from a blur.
Okay, but is it a blur?
Yeah.
We don't know.
For me, it's a blur from the time it leaves the track to the time it hits the ground.
But that's what I'm saying. Looking back as far as you can is vital.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
But you've got to see it.
Right.
I've caught myself doing it. I did it on a bird in Hungary. I'll never forget it. It was on the Rangemaster layout. It was just a fast trap shot going away. And because I'm in the hunt, I wanted to see it early. I looked too far back and it just beat me. I knew I shouldn't look back there, but I wanted to see it. Want and can, they're not the same. Make sure you can see it, not want to see it. And then the reverse of that is on the report pair, the eyes stay with the gun. They don't look back at all. We've gone from looking too far back on the first one to looking straight down the barrel for the second one. They get no eye separation. So now you've got no method. There's zero method can happen from there because the first time you see it, it's already reached you.
Yeah. Or past you.
They're the two. That would be a major problem I see where I work a lot with eye separation. When you see me give a lesson, I spend very little time behind the shooter and a lot of time to the sides. I want to see where their eyes are. Are they seeing it early? Are they seeing it too early? Are they seeing it too late? Are they not looking back at all? And I'll always relate that to pulling up to a highway. If you're pulling up to a T-junction, look straight ahead. Tell me how long you sit there for. You sit there for a long time or you think, shit, go for it. Which is exactly what we do when we're shooting.
Right.
I haven't seen it yet, so guess what you do? Move.
Anything else on that? Mistakes?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's a generic fix.
No.
I think there's individual habitual habits, which a good coach will identify.
So speaking of that, real quick, and you're like, if anybody wants to know where you're going to be next, I tell them just take a world map and start throwing darts. But how can people get a hold of you? I mean, I know you have a huge social media presence, obviously, but for the people that aren't on social media or they want to reach out to you directly, what's the best way to find you?
Just my website will give you direct access. Don't Google me because you'll read all the good stuff.
I kind of figured something was coming along those lines.
Look, reach me on social media. My website's got a contact me box, and yeah, I'm very easily reachable. Well,
I'll make sure and put your website down the bottom of the podcast description. That way, it's easy enough for people to find you that way. And you still have your online videos that you do? Yeah,
we're just relaunching the subscription page. I'm making a bit of a change to that within the next 2 months. We instead of listing one big video a month, I'm going to drop that down to 3 or 4 shorter videos. We're going to go a little bit shorter in content and release more.
Okay.
We're going to have a complete rebuild of the subscription page. We've led that market for a long time.
So, but they'll still have full access to all the past videos.
They won't go anywhere.
Okay.
I'm going to shoot a lot more personally on the videos instead of coaching.
Okay.
We're going to just try and swing it from a very different perspective.
Okay, cool. And then obviously they can book a lesson from you through the website if you are coming to town.
Yep. So like I said, I teach in 23 countries each year.
Are you coming back to the States anytime this year?
Hopefully.
Okay.
The support I get from the States is phenomenal,
Okay. Well, good. I mean, Ben, it's been a pleasure. I mean, I know I kept you here past dinner time because you were teaching all day.
I love these things because, and I listen to them all.
Do you really?
And I think that's...
You really do. You listen to all of them.
100%. I drove 20 hours to Hungary the other week and I listened to all of them. Now, why do I listen to them? Because I might learn something. Now, abundance of titles. And I listen to Anthony, I think, you know what? How he described that is better than how I do. I'm going to use that. And I think, I wonder if that works, what he said about the eyes. I'm going to try that. Now, if I'm willing to try it, whoever's listening to this, you might not learn something. You're not going to know until you try it. If I'm willing to listen to Brandon Powell and think, not how I'd do it, but let's go try it. If I'm willing to try it, somebody that's not there yet should be definitely willing to try it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we did this 3-part series, is trying to help lend some good advice. We're not, Sean and I've said it a million times, we're not the experts. We just try and get the experts on and ask the right questions. So but hopefully everybody's taking all this.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that we've missed from this, especially what I would be talking about with my higher end shooters, is goals.
Yeah, you're right. We didn't talk about goal setting.
Goals is the biggest part of it, or you're never going to have a how do you know you've improved? Shooting a 95 is not an improvement.
So, okay.
The course could have just been easy.
I want you to elaborate on this. You had talked a while back about setting 3 types of goals.
Short, middle, and long.
Yeah. Will you explain that to everybody? For the people that haven't heard you say that?
Yeah, so I think everything in life's got to be short-term, long-term, medium-term goals. Short-term is something I want to achieve within the next 3 months. Medium-term goals is something I want to achieve in the next couple of years. Long-term goals is something I might never achieve, but that's what's going to make me train when it's windy, when it's raining. I got to have something to chase. So short-term, I want to master maintain lead. Right? That's my short-term goal. I've got 3 months to achieve that. That's doable. In the medium-term goals, I want to have an average score that I'm within 8% of the person that finishes third. All right?
Okay.
So every tournament I go to, I want to finish within 8% of third. I never use first and second because somebody's always going to blitz the course. It's not going to be what's par. And then my long-term goal, okay? Make the podium at the World Championship. Win the World Championship. Go to a regional and win my class. Might never happen, but when I get up in the morning, I've got a day off work and I'm going to go train and I open the window and it's pissing down with rain, that goal gets me out the house.
Yeah.
Got to have something to chase. It's like the carrot on a stick. I just can't reach it, but I'm going to keep trying.
I think a lot of people set their goals a little too high on the shorter term.
I think they set them out of bounds.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm one of those people. I did it for a couple of years. And then I, again, taking that long, hard look in the mirror, right? So maybe we need to adjust this a little bit. It's okay to shoot for the moon as long as you end up in the stars, as they say. But I was trying to shoot for Pluto and, wasn't making it off the ground. So,
and it's got to be realistic.
Yeah. Exactly.
You never want to live or compete in disappointment. You'll always be better related. So if you're always suppressive, you shoot on a squad that's suppressive, or you've got a coach that always puts you down, guess how you're going to shoot? So you want some win. Small wins are huge. Small wins are what makes you smile. I just gave a wonderful lesson to a lady shooter there. To see her smile, that's a small win for her.
Yeah.
That's a big short-term goal. She came today, Ben, I just cannot hit quartering shots. Okay? Or you just don't know how to.
I was going to say, I watched the tail end of this lesson and the girl was crushing.
But people say to me, they'll come for a lesson, right? A good shooter. Ben, I really want to shoot teal today. I've struggled with teal for 5 years. And I say to him, no, you haven't. No, I have. No, you really haven't. You've done the same thing for 5 years. That's not struggling. It definitely begins with S, but it's not struggling. Right?
Yeah.
Because what we do, let's say we shoot teal. I always shoot teal with maintain lead. I don't ever hit them. But today, I will. 5 years and 1 day. God, didn't work again. Change what you do.
Right.
If you want something you have not got, do something you've not yet done.
Makes perfect sense to me. So, yeah, back to the thing about the goal setting, though, is being realistic. I mean,
definitely, but I think one of them should sit there
out of reach, just slightly out of reach,
and drive you.
Yeah.
If you want to become third at the World Champ, a podium finish at the World Championship, and you come fifth, wow,
that's pretty close.
Wow,
you're talking about the worlds here.
We're going to have you know what? I'm going to have another go next year.
Yeah.
I'm going to take my training from 300 a week to 350. And that's going to.
Yeah. If that is your goal to make the podium and you finish fifth, look at the opportunities you got to learn.
There we go.
By landing fifth, right? So, yeah. Very well said, Ben.
And I think on that pre-shot routine, you got to decide whether you're in the moment, you're doing pre-shot analysis or post-shot analysis. So if I'm shooting sporting clays, it's all post-shot. You spend a lot of time in the rearview mirror. What happened on the last pair. Bang, bang. Post-shot analysis. Pull. Bang, bang. Post-shot analysis. Bang, bang. FITAS is 0 post-shot analysis. 0.
Yeah, because you're moving on to something new every pair.
But
or
we
every
don't.
shot.
People have the same mental game for sporting clays and FITAS and 5-stand and compact, and each one of them is a whole different mental game. Am I looking behind me to fix a problem, or am I looking forward? And I think that's a whole different podcast.
Yeah, we'll get you back on. We'll dive into this because you got my curiosity now. So
Yeah, sporting clays is post and FITAS is pre.
right. Man, we could sit here all night and do this. We definitely need to schedule another one for sure because you've had my gears turning. I've been kind of quiet because every time you say something, it's like I want to ask him this, but that's not related to this episode. So, we'll get you back on soon. It's been a long time anyway. Unfortunately, I got to carry the weight of the big man on my shoulders, and that's a hard weight to carry. So we'll see if I can do this or not. We say it every week: take someone new shooting, take them to a tournament. We've been getting a lot of pictures, a lot of emails. Appreciate it, love it. Forgive me, I haven't posted them. I told them I would, and I haven't posted those pictures. So hopefully I get caught up on that. But it's working, guys. I've seen photographs with groups of people, and the whole group is new shooters,
Yep.
and that's wonderful.
I think I've said it before. Like your podcast, I think just the effort you put in, people like myself have to match it. Right? You're helping the sport grow. You know, so the top shooters should be giving back. You know, this sport gave me an opportunity and a lifestyle that if I can't take some time out of my day to help you guys, it's a sorry state of affairs. And it's definitely working. You know, I look online, the Dead Pair Podcast Championship. I'm like, God damn, they got their own shoot.
Yeah.
And look, support these things. Share the podcast.
Yeah.
Takes
I know. We
takes 2
appreciate
minutes
it.
to share it.
But I love people seeing, you know, Sean and I issued a Dead Pair challenge. We started it last year. Take one new person a month.
No.
And I just got a photograph from a gentleman, an email, where he took 10 months worth in one trip.
Yeah.
You know, and how awesome is that? Now, and he said, here's the cool thing about that. 4 of them went out that weekend and bought new guns.
I think the future of sporting clays is in America. I really do. You guys do it more professionally. You do it better. You're willing to learn is unbelievable. You know, Europe's unfortunately probably peaked.
You think?
Yeah.
Or do you just think it's just at a stalemate?
No, I just think owning a gun is more difficult now than it's ever been. Access to ammunition is expensive. That doesn't mean the sport's not growing, right? But it's not growing at the rate it is here.
Well,
You know, I've been on this ground today and there wasn't a space in the parking lot. This place was full. It's Friday.
yeah.
You know, something good is happening here. I can feel it.
Well, I mean, I definitely don't want to make political statements, okay? But we have to be careful because we really are one election away from dealing with what you're dealing with.
Yeah. I understand that.
You know what I mean? So we have to be careful. And I think, you know, we had Winston on from the Jamaica team, and they talked about how difficult it was to own a firearm.
Oh,
Actually,
you don't.
it's
I teach that.
insane.
I teach in Jamaica. This is my 50th time teaching in Jamaica. You know, Stanley Winston, who's
Yeah.
that's a hell of a guy, right?
Oh, yeah. He's an awesome guy.
No, I teach Stanley. He's been teaching Stanley for years. So, you know, they can't even transport ammunition.
I know. I mean, and that was my point with that episode and doing that interview with him is how much we take for granted here in the States. And I'm not saying everybody needs to freak out, but we just got to be careful.
Defend yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Think smart.
Exactly. But, Ben, this has been awesome. And I've probably missed 10 things, and Sean's going to listen to this and go, you didn't say this and you didn't say that.
Hey, guys,
So-
look, I'm a big supporter of your show. If you want me on, I'll come on.
Well, I guarantee Sean's going to listen to this. I'm going to get my butt ripped because I missed something. We're going to have to get you back on. But for the pinnacle of the series, this has been great. I mean, the information, you know, from our first 2 guests was awesome. Tons of information. And what you just laid down was the pinnacle. So
And let me leave you with one thing.
what's that?
Gun fit.
Oh, my gosh, yes. We talked about that on the very first episode.
We'll come back to that. That's one you need to do. Because I see good shooters with bad gun fits.
Really?
Huge. That doesn't mean it doesn't shoot port of aim. It means they're soaking up recoil and getting movement that they don't need.
Well, again, another episode. Ben, thank you very much. This has been great.
No, pleasure, man. Thank you.
We really went long, but I think people are definitely going to stick around and listen all the way through because of the information you've put out all the way through. This is
they listen to see if I say anything stupid.
Well, yeah, that too. They're waiting. We're not quite done. We
probably let them down this trip. This has been very, very conservative.
Well, we haven't played the outro music yet, so there's still a chance.
This has been very. If I've disappointed this trip, I apologize. We can have a controversial one again.
We'll let you interview Brandon.
That'd be a podcast.
That would be a podcast. But thank you again, Ben. Appreciate it. Thank you to Quill Creek for letting us come down here. They've been closed now for an hour and a half, and they let us
what a facility,
around. Oh, beautiful!
What a facility!
Yes.
Justin and Mike are doing a great job here.
And next year, not only is it home of the Jack Links Cup, it's also home of the Southeast Regional. So they're going to be really busy next year. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And as Sean would say, we look forward to catching you all back here on the Dead Pair Podcast.
We'll see you next time on the Dead Pair Podcast.
The Dead Pair Podcast is brought to you by Kolar Arms, the mark of performance, and is fueled by Fiocchi USA. The Dead Pair theme song was written, arranged, and produced by Toby Tomplay. Special thanks to the following sponsors: Atlas Traps, Ranger Performance Eyewear, Rhino Chokes, Long Range LLC, Taconic Distillery, Score Chaser, and Clay Range Design Works.